The galaxy was no longer a distant backdrop of twinkling stars, but a living, breathing battlefield where every shadow hid a threat, and every flicker of light held the promise of salvation or ruin. Cale's resolve had been forged in the crucible of endless conflict, tempered by loss and sharpened by unyielding hope. The rebellion, once a sketch, beneath the vast, indifferent tapestry of stars, Earth, once the vibrant heart of human civilization, now lay shattered and smoldering, a world undone by its own hand and the relentless tides of cosmic conflict. It was not the alien invaders alone who brought ruin to this blue planet, but the fractures within humanity itself, the bitter rivalries, the desperate wars, and the choices that spiraled into annihilation. Cities that had once reached for the heavens lay in ruins, their gleaming towers toppled and crumbled beneath storms of fire and ash that choked the skies and poisoned the seas. The planet's wounds ran deep, carved by weapons of unimaginable power wielded in fury and fear, until the very ground beneath was scorched beyond healing. In the midst of this apocalypse walked Cale, a man without title or legacy, carrying the weight of countless lost souls in his weary heart. He was no hero born of legend, but a survivor sculpted by relentless grief and an unyielding will to endure when all hope seemed extinguished. As alien fleets blotted out the sun with their cold, unyielding presence, expecting easy victory over a broken species, Cale defied their expectations with a stubbornness born of desperation. His story began not with glory or fanfare, but with a whispered promise clinging to the ruins, a promise that humanity's flame would not be snuffed out so easily. In a battered, ancient space ark designed as a last refuge for a dying race, Cale found sanctuary amid the ghosts of a lost world. The ship groaned under the strain of escape, its metal bones protesting as it tore through Earth's fractured atmosphere, carrying within it the fragile hope of survival. Within its cold corridors, Cale wrestled with memories that clawed at his sanity, the faces of those he loved and lost, the screams swallowed by silence, and the unbearable weight of failure. Beyond the viewport, the cosmos stretched cold and silent, a vast emptiness where countless civilizations rose and fell unnoticed. Yet inside Cale burned a fire no void could consume, a fierce, indomitable spark that would soon set the galaxy ablaze with the possibility of change. The silence of space was not peace. It was a canvas for the chaos yet to come, a stage set for the clash between ancient empires and a single human whose spirit refused to be broken. The galaxy beyond was a realm ruled by cold calculation and brutal power, where alien empires with histories spanning millennia viewed humans as insignificant vermin, primitive creatures to be studied, exploited, or eradicated. Cale's arrival unsettled the established order like a tremor before a quake, a ripple of unexpected defiance that spread through the shadows of tyrants' courts and rebel enclaves alike. Among the forgotten and oppressed, those cast out by mighty empires, he found unlikely allies whose dreams of freedom resonated with his own unyielding hope. Together, they forged a fragile coalition, a flicker of rebellion that threatened to ignite a conflagration capable of toppling centuries-old dominions, but the path forward was paved with betrayal, sacrifice, and the cruel reality that every victory would be stained with loss. As Cale ventured deeper into this cosmic web of intrigue and war, he bore not only the burden of survival, but the immense responsibility of carrying humanity's legacy into the unknown. Questions swirled like distant storms. Could one human, forged in the ashes of a destroyed home, truly change the fate of a galaxy teetering on the edge of darkness? The answer lay hidden in the shadows, secrets whispered in the cold halls of alien palaces, in the flickering firelight of rebel camps, and in the silent stare of the stars themselves. As Cale stood at the edge of revolution, his heart heavy with grief but steeled with determination, the galaxy held its breath. What began as a solitary escape from extinction was becoming the spark of a saga that would rewrite history and challenge the very notion of power. The void awaited, vast and unforgiving, but within Cale burned a light that no darkness could contain, a light destined to ignite the fires of change across worlds untold. And as he stepped into the unknown, the first whisper of rebellion stirred in the silent cosmos, promising that the story of humanity was far from over. In the endless blackness of space, the ancient empires that ruled vast swaths of the galaxy regarded Kale with a mixture of disdain and curiosity, unable to comprehend how a single human, scarred by the ruins of a forgotten world, could ignite such profound ripples across star systems. These empires, monoliths of power built on millennia of conquest, their fleets vast as storms and their political intrigues woven with cold precision, had never seen a force quite like the human spirit embodied in Kale. Among their halls of marble and steel, where rulers wielded authority as effortlessly as breathing, whispers spread of the defiant survivor who refused to kneel. His presence was an anomaly, a disruption in the carefully maintained order, and that disruption festered uneasily beneath the veneer of alien supremacy. Yet Kale knew the galaxy was no place for myths or miracles. It was a battleground of wills and ideologies, where every step forward was met with resistance, and every victory exacted a brutal toll. As he forged alliances with rebels and outcasts, each bearing their own scars and dreams, he began to weave a tapestry of resistance that stretched beyond mere survival. It was a fight for identity, for freedom, and for the chance to reclaim dignity in a universe that had written humanity off as extinct. But as the fires of rebellion grew, so too did the dangers lurking in the shadows, traitors who wore masks of friendship, enemies who struck without warning, and secrets buried so deep that uncovering them threatened to unravel everything Kale had fought to build. The galaxy's vastness became both sanctuary and prison, a place where hope and despair danced on the edge of every decision, and Kale's journey was a perilous path through darkness and light. Beneath the alien stars, Kale's resolve was tested time and again, each battle a crucible forging him into a symbol far larger than himself. The alliances he forged were fragile, held together by shared desperation and the flickering promise of change, yet fraught with tension that could ignite at the slightest spark. He grappled with the weight of leadership and the personal cost of rebellion, friends lost, trust shattered, and the haunting question of what it meant to be human in a galaxy that sought to erase his kind. The emotional toll pressed heavily upon him, yet with every setback, his determination hardened like tempered steel. The unknown enemy, the true puppeteer behind the galaxy's oppression, remained hidden, pulling strings from the shadows, and Kale sensed that the coming storm would be unlike any before. His story was no longer just about survival or defiance. It was a battle for the soul of the galaxy itself, a saga destined to expose the darkest secrets of power and the unbreakable strength of a single human will. As the first embers of open conflict began to blaze across alien worlds, Kale stood at the forefront, a reluctant leader burdened by grief but fueled by hope. The galaxy watched and waited, the fragile balance tipping toward an uncertain future, and with a final breath before the storm, Kale prepared to face the revelation that would change everything, an answer that would challenge not just his enemies, but the very essence of what it meant to be human. The void of space was an unforgiving theater, where stars burned cold and distant, and the whispers of ancient civilizations echoed through the endless darkness like ghosts haunting forgotten halls. Kale had learned that survival in this vast, indifferent expanse required more than courage. It demanded cunning, resilience, and a willingness to face the shadows within as fiercely as the dangers beyond. The fragile alliance he had forged with alien rebels and exiles was tested by mistrust and the ghosts of past betrayals, each faction wary of the other's true intentions. Yet beneath the fragile surface of unity lay a shared truth. The oppressive empires that held the galaxy in their iron grip thrived on fear and division, and only together could the scattered resistance hope to ignite a revolution. Kale's heart was heavy with the knowledge that every victory came at a cost. The lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the growing burden of leadership pressing down like a weight that threatened to crush him. His own humanity felt stretched thin in this alien crucible, as he grappled not only with enemies without but doubts within, questioning what he was becoming in the process of becoming a symbol. The fires of rebellion flickered uncertainly, fueled by desperation and hope in equal measure, while the cold eyes of empire watched, calculating their next move with ruthless precision. And as Kale stood on the precipice of a battle that could shatter the fragile balance of power, He knew that the path ahead was one from which there might be no return, only the burning question of what price must be paid for freedom. The darkness that spread across alien worlds was not only the absence of light, but a shadow cast by secrets buried deep in the heart of the galaxy's ancient rulers. Kale's journey uncovered whispered legends of a force older than any empire, a power so immense and terrifying that entire civilizations had vanished trying to control it. It was a secret buried beneath layers of history and lies, guarded by merciless sentinels and cloaked in mysteries that defied comprehension. As Kale delved deeper into the web of conspiracy, he realized that the rebellion was but a single thread in a tapestry far grander and darker than he had imagined. The galaxy's fate was intertwined with this hidden force, and uncovering its truth meant risking not only his life, but the fragile alliances that held the resistance together. Trust became a scarce commodity, and every revelation carried the weight of potential destruction. Yet amidst the shadows, Kale found moments of unexpected light, and the loyalty of friends forged in fire, in the courage of those who dared to dream of a better future, and in the quiet resolve that no matter the cost, the human spirit would endure. But as the secrets began to surface, so too did the enemies who would kill to keep them hidden, their reach extending into every corner of the galaxy. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of Kale's resolve and the strength of the rebellion itself, with consequences that could echo through time and space. In the heart of the approaching storm, Kale felt the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders like the cold vacuum surrounding his battered ship. The galaxy watched silently, caught between hope and despair, as the flicker of rebellion threatened to ignite a fire that could consume entire star systems, or be snuffed out before it had even begun. His journey had transformed him from a lone survivor, fleeing a dying world, into a reluctant leader bearing the hopes of countless lives, each step a gamble in a game of cosmic stakes. The enemy's forces gathered like shadows before a storm, their intent clear and merciless, yet within Kale burned a light that no darkness could extinguish. The final pieces were falling into place, secrets poised to be revealed, and alliances tested to their breaking point. As the galaxy held its breath, Kale's story was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. With a heavy heart but unbroken spirit, he braced for the clash that would define not just his fate, but the destiny of every world under the stars. The silence before the storm was suffocating, and in that silence, the first echo of rebellion rang out, a signal that the tides of history were shifting, and no force in the galaxy could stop what was coming next. The galaxy was a vast chessboard where ancient powers moved their pieces with cold precision, each decision rippling across star systems like a tidal wave of consequence. Kale had stepped into this deadly game unwittingly, a pawn transformed into a king by circumstance and sheer will. His name had become a beacon among the oppressed and a threat whispered in the halls of tyrants. Yet with every victory, the stakes grew higher, and the shadows lengthened as enemies both known and hidden tightened their grip. The alliances that had once been fragile now buckled under the strain of ambition, fear, and the ever-present hunger for power. Kale found himself walking a razor's edge, where one misstep could shatter the fragile coalition he had built. His mind was a battlefield of its own, haunted by memories of Earth's destruction, burdened by the lives lost in this escalating conflict, and torn between the desire for vengeance and the need for mercy. The weight of leadership pressed heavily, yet beneath the crushing pressure, his resolve hardened like forged steel. The fires of rebellion flickered in the darkness, a fragile light against the encroaching void, and Kale knew that the next move would determine not only his fate, but the future of an entire galaxy teetering on the edge of chaos. Amidst the turmoil, a startling discovery reshaped the course of Kale's struggle. A hidden technology buried deep within the ruins of an ancient civilization, capable of shifting the balance of power in unimaginable ways. This artifact, a relic whispered about in the darkest corners of the galaxy, promised not just survival but dominion over the very fabric of space and time. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Alliance and the Empires alike, sparking a desperate race to control this newfound power. Kale's quest became more perilous than ever as old enemies united against the threat he now represented, and new betrayals emerged from within his own ranks. Trust became a rare currency, and every step forward was shadowed by doubt and danger. Yet in the crucible of war, Kale's spirit burned brighter, fueled by the knowledge that this was more than a fight for survival. It was a battle to reclaim the future. The galaxy watched, breathless and uncertain, as the lines between friend and foe blurred, and the true cost of freedom began to reveal itself in blood and sacrifice. As the first flames of open war ignited across alien worlds, Kale stood at the center of the storm, a figure shaped by loss and driven by unyielding hope. The galaxy's fate hung in the balance, a fragile thread woven through battles fought in shadowed corridors and on the scorched plains of distant planets. Each choice carved a deeper path into the unknown, and the price of rebellion grew heavier with every dawn. Kale's story was no longer just about one human against the odds. It had become a saga of countless lives intertwined in the struggle for a destiny beyond destruction. The enemy's shadow loomed ever closer, its secrets threatening to unravel everything Kale held dear. And as the stars aligned for a confrontation that would echo through eternity, the silence before the final storm was shattered by a whisper, a revelation so profound it would change everything. The question was no longer if the galaxy could be saved, but who would survive the coming reckoning. And in that moment, Kale realized that the true battle was only just beginning. In the boundless theater of the galaxy, where stars burned like distant fires and shadows stretched across the void, Kale's journey had become a saga of endurance and unyielding hope. The empires, colossal in their arrogance and power, moved like titans through the darkness, wielding fleets capable of crushing entire worlds beneath their iron grip. They sought to snuff out the rebellion before its embers could ignite into a flame that would consume their centuries. Old Dominion. Kale, once a lone survivor from a forgotten planet, now carried the weight of countless lives on his shoulders. Each decision carved paths through uncertainty. Every alliance was a fragile tapestry woven with threads of trust and betrayal. The cost of defiance was heavy, measured in the blood of friends and strangers alike. Memories of Earth's destruction haunted him, echoes of a home lost to apathy and war, a stark reminder of what was at stake. Yet beneath the crushing weight of loss and responsibility, a fierce flame burned within Kale's heart. In the steadfast faces of those who had chosen to stand beside him, rebels, exiles, and dreamers scarred by their own battles, he found renewed strength. They were not just fighting for survival, but for a future where humanity and its allies might stand free in the darkness of the cosmos. The rebellion's fire spread, ignited by desperation, courage, and the unbreakable power of hope that even the cold void could not extinguish. Within this swirling maelstrom of shifting loyalties and fragile truces, Kale uncovered a secret that threatened to unravel the very fabric of the resistance. Deep beneath layers of myth and guarded history lay the truth of an ancient power, one that was far more than mere technology or weaponry. It was a force of pure will, capable of bending the very fabric of reality and reshaping the destiny of galaxies. This revelation shattered illusions and forced Kale to question everything he had believed about the war he was waging. The fragile unity of the rebellion now trembled on the brink of collapse. As trust became scarce and suspicion wove its poisonous threads through every conversation. The enemy's agents lurked in every shadow, waiting to strike with deadly precision, while even some within Kale's closest circle wrestled with doubt and ambition. Despite the chaos, Kale's resolve crystallized with newfound clarity. This power was not to be wielded for vengeance or dominion, but as a beacon of liberation and hope. The future he envisioned was not one of conquest but of freedom, freedom from the tyrannies that had long oppressed the stars. The path forward was perilous, lined with the wreckage of shattered dreams and lives, yet the stakes had never been higher. It was a battle for the very soul of the galaxy, and Kale knew that the coming days would demand sacrifices unlike any before. As the galaxy's balance teetered on the edge of annihilation, Kale stood at the crossroads of destiny, the weight of countless worlds pressing down upon him like the cold vacuum of space itself. His allies, battered but unbroken, prepared for a confrontation that could either break the chains of tyranny or bury their hopes beneath a tide of destruction. Every victory had come at a terrible cost, and the shadows of those lost haunted the quiet moments between battles. Yet in the heart of the storm, Kale's spirit blazed with unyielding light, a beacon cutting through the darkness of fear and despair. The silence before the final storm was suffocating, a breath held across the endless expanse, pregnant with the promise of reckoning and redemption. Whispers of fate and destiny mingled with the cold hum of warships gathering in the void, as the galaxy awaited the clash that would echo through eternity. Kale's story was far from over. It was a beginning, a spark in the endless night, a testament to the indomitable will of one human who dared to change the course of an entire galaxy. The next chapter was unfolding, and with it, the fragile hope that light could prevail against the deepest darkness. Red whisper of defiance now surged like a roaring tempest, its momentum unstoppable yet precariously balanced on the edge of catastrophe. Across shattered planets and ruined cities, the echoes of war reverberated, carried on winds that smelled of ash and blood. Kale moved like a ghost among these ruins, a symbol more than a man, his presence a rallying cry for those desperate to believe in a future beyond oppression. Yet even as his name inspired loyalty and courage, the weight of leadership bore heavily, the crushing burden of knowing that every choice could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. Friends turned foes in the blink of an eye, and the line between ally and enemy blurred into a haze of suspicion and betrayal. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable storm that would either ignite a new dawn or plunge all into eternal darkness. Amid the chaos, Kale's path intersected with revelations that challenged the very essence of his quest. The ancient power at the heart of the conflict was no mere weapon or tool. It was a force woven into the fabric of existence itself, a remnant of creation's dawn that held the potential to remake reality. Legend spoke of its destructive fury and its capacity to heal, a double-edged sword wielded by those willing to pay the ultimate price. As Kale delved deeper into the mysteries surrounding this power, he discovered that its true nature was entwined with the fate of not just his rebellion, but the entire galaxy. The lines between light and shadow, hope and despair, blurred as Kale faced impossible choices that tested his humanity and resolve. The fragile alliances around him strained under the weight of secrets and ambition, and betrayal lurked like a venomous serpent ready to strike. Yet in the face of overwhelming odds, Kale's determination never wavered. His fight had become more than survival. It was a desperate grasp at redemption, a chance to rewrite the destiny written in the stars long before his time. As the forces of Empire closed in like a dark tide, Kale stood at the heart of a storm destined to reshape everything. The rebellion's flame flickered in the gathering gloom, fragile yet fierce, a beacon for those who refused to bow to tyranny. Every step forward was a battle, every breath a defiant act against the crushing weight of oppression. The final confrontation loomed on the horizon, a clash that would decide the fate of countless worlds and the soul of a galaxy on the brink. Kale's story, marked by sacrifice and hope, was far from its end. It was a spark that could ignite a revolution, a light cutting through the vast shadow of despair. As the silence before the storm stretched taut, the galaxy held its breath, caught in the delicate balance between destruction and rebirth. And in that silence, a single truth echoed louder than any weapon. The indomitable will of one human could indeed change the fate of an entire galaxy. The void between stars was thick with tension as Kale's rebellion surged forward, a relentless wave crashing against the impenetrable walls of Empire. Each victory had been a hard, fought step through fire and blood, and the cost weighed heavily on every soul who dared to stand against the darkness. Kale's name had become a symbol, a whisper of hope that spread like wildfire through occupied worlds and shattered colonies. Yet beneath the rising tide of resistance lurked an unforgiving truth. The empires were not simply faceless behemoths, but living entities fueled by centuries of cruelty, manipulation, and an unquenchable thirst for control. Their reach extended into the farthest corners of the galaxy, their spies and assassins threading webs of deceit that threatened to unravel the fragile alliances Kale had painstakingly built. Trust was a currency harder to come by than ammunition, and every choice carried the weight of potential betrayal. The specter of loss haunted Kale's every step, memories of fallen comrades, and destroyed homes like ghosts that clung to the edges of his mind. Yet in the face of overwhelming darkness, his spirit remained unbroken, fueled by the raw, unyielding hope that one person's defiance could light the way for millions lost in the shadows. Within the labyrinth of political intrigue and shifting loyalties, Cale uncovered truths that defied comprehension. The ancient power at the heart of the conflict was revealed to be not just a weapon but a living force, sentient, mysterious, and bound by laws older than the stars themselves. This force held the ability to shape reality, to warp the very fabric of existence, but wielding it demanded a sacrifice beyond anything Cale had imagined. Legends whispered of civilizations swallowed whole by their own ambition, their attempts to harness this power ending in cataclysm. As Cale grappled with the enormity of his responsibility, he realized that this force was not simply a tool of war but a test of character, a crucible that would judge not only strength but the purity of purpose. The rebellion's fragile unity was tested as fear and ambition ignited internal strife, and Cale faced betrayal from unexpected quarters. Yet through the chaos he remained steadfast, driven by a vision of a galaxy free from tyranny's grip, a vision that demanded courage, sacrifice, and an unbreakable will. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance, and the coming battle would be the ultimate measure of humanity's resilience. As the final storm gathered on the horizon, Cale prepared for the confrontation that would define his legacy. The empires marshaled their forces, a tidal wave of destruction poised to crush the rebellion beneath its weight. Every star system held its breath, the fragile hope of liberation flickering like a candle in a tempest. Cale stood at the epicenter of this maelstrom, a figure forged by loss, hope, and unrelenting determination. The silence before the battle was suffocating, thick with the promise of sacrifice and the possibility of redemption. In that quiet, a single truth echoed through the void, the indomitable power of one human, willing to face the darkness without flinching, could indeed change the fate of an entire galaxy. The final chapter of this saga was yet to be written, and Cale's story was far from over. It was a beginning, a spark that would ignite a revolution, a light shining through the endless night, and a testament to the unyielding strength of hope against the vast darkness. Beneath the swirling chaos of war-torn galaxies, Cale found himself confronting not only the external forces of tyranny, but the internal battles that defined his very soul. Each victory came tethered with loss, and every moment of hope was shadowed by the creeping weight of doubt and fear. The rebellion's heart beat with fierce defiance, yet the fractures within its ranks threatened to splinter the fragile alliance into dust. Old wounds bled anew as rival factions jostled for power, their ambitions clashing with the desperate need for unity. Cale's leadership was tested as never before, the burden of countless lives pressing upon him like the cold vastness of space itself. He wrestled with the ghosts of the past, memories of Earth's destruction, the faces of fallen friends, and the haunting question of whether the price of freedom was worth the cost. Yet amidst the turmoil, a quiet resolve grew. Cale understood that the fight was not just for survival, but for the soul of the galaxy. The stars themselves seemed to watch and wait, their ancient light bearing silent witness to the choices that would shape the future. And as the shadows lengthened and the tides of war surged, Cale's spirit burned brighter, a beacon in the endless night. In the depths of hidden strongholds and shattered worlds, whispers spread of the ancient force that could alter reality itself. This power, neither fully understood nor controllable, beckoned with both promise and peril. Legends told of civilizations undone by their own hubris, their attempts to wield this force ending in ruin and despair. Cale's discovery of its true nature brought with it a chilling clarity. This was no mere weapon, but a living testament to the delicate balance between creation and destruction. As factions vied to claim this power, alliances crumbled and new enemies emerged from the shadows, each driven by their own desperate visions of the future. The rebellion's fragile hope was tested by betrayal and ambition, yet Cale remained unwavering. He saw in this ancient force not a path to conquest, but a chance for redemption, a way to break the cycles of oppression that had gripped the galaxy for millennia. The stakes had never been higher, and the battle ahead promised to be a crucible that would either forge a new dawn or plunge all into darkness. As the final battle loomed like a storm on the horizon, Kale stood poised at the precipice of destiny. The empires marshaled their legions, a relentless tide ready to sweep away the last flickers of resistance. The galaxy held its breath, suspended in a moment fraught with possibility and peril. Kale's story, shaped by sacrifice and illuminated by hope, was far from over. It was a spark, a light that could ignite the fires of revolution and shatter the chains of tyranny forever. In the heavy silence before the storm, one truth resonated through the void. The indomitable will of a single human, fearless in the face of annihilation, could indeed change the fate of an entire galaxy. The coming clash would test every ounce of courage and resolve, but in that crucible the future would be forged. Kale's legacy was no longer just his own. It was the hope of countless souls yearning for freedom, and a testament to the power of hope to shine brightest in the deepest darkness. In the shadowed corridors of shattered star bases and silent warships, Kale's resolve hardened into something unbreakable, a force that refused to yield against the crushing weight of empire. The rebellion, once a flicker of defiance, had grown into a tempest of hope and fury, its firestorm sweeping across the galaxy with relentless momentum. Yet with each victory came the haunting toll of sacrifice, the ghosts of comrades lost, and worlds left in ruins etched into the fabric of Kale's soul. The empires, sensing their grasp slipping, unleashed horrors born of desperation and cruelty, bioweapons that twisted life itself, fleets that burned entire planets to ash, and agents who struck from the shadows with lethal precision. Every step forward was met with a storm of blood and fire, a brutal reminder that freedom demanded a price paid in full. Kale moved through this chaos like a phantom, a symbol more than a man, carrying the hopes of millions on shoulders weary but unyielding. His heart burned with the knowledge that the final confrontation was inevitable, a clash not just of fleets and firepower, but of wills that would determine the very fate of the stars. Amidst the swirling storm of war, Kale wrestled with the ancient power that had become both a beacon and a burden. The force that could bend reality was a double-edged sword, its promise shadowed by the potential for annihilation. Legends told of civilizations swallowed by their own ambition, and Kale knew the cost of wielding such power was steep and unforgiving. As factions within the rebellion vied for control, and the Empire sought to corrupt and destroy, the lines between friend and foe blurred into a dangerous haze. Trust was scarce, betrayal a constant threat, and Kale faced the agonizing truth that victory might demand sacrifices that would haunt him forever. Yet in the darkest moments, the ember of hope refused to die. Kale's vision of a galaxy free from tyranny burned bright, a future forged not in conquest, but in the unyielding spirit of those who dared to stand against the void. The storm was coming, and with it, the reckoning that would echo across the cosmos. As the final battle drew near, Kale stood at the crossroads of destiny, the weight of countless worlds pressing down with unbearable gravity. The galaxy held its breath, caught between destruction and rebirth, as fleets gathered like thunderclouds ready to unleash their fury. Kale's story was no longer just his own. It was the legacy of those who had fought, fallen, and dreamed of freedom. The silence before the storm was thick with tension and possibility, a fragile moment suspended in time. In that quiet, a single truth resonated through the void. The indomitable will of one human, fearless and resolute, could change the fate of an entire galaxy. The coming clash would decide the future, testing every shred of courage and sacrifice. Kale's journey was far from over. It was a spark that would ignite a revolution, a light piercing the endless night, and a testament to the power of hope in the face of overwhelming darkness. The galaxy trembled on the brink of an abyss, a vast stage where destiny itself was poised to unfold in a crescendo of fire and shadow. Kale stood amidst the swirling chaos, a solitary figure forged by the relentless fires of war and tempered by the unbreakable will to forge a future free from the suffocating chains of empire. The rebellion, battered but unbroken, gathered its final strength as starships blazed through the void, their engines roaring like thunder heralding the dawn of a new era. Every heartbeat was a drum of defiance, every breath a testament to sacrifice and unyielding hope. The ancient power, a force beyond comprehension, pulsed at the heart of this cosmic storm, an enigmatic energy that could either shatter worlds or heal the wounds of a fractured galaxy. Kale's eyes, reflecting the cold light of distant suns, bore the weight of countless lives, the memories of friends lost, and the relentless burden of choice. In this moment the line between savior and martyr blurred, for the fate of all rested on a single fragile spark, one human's courage to defy the darkness. The final battle erupted like a supernova, a tempest of light and shadow that tore through the fabric of space and time. Empires clashed with the fury of dying stars, their fleets reduced to burning wreckage amidst the cold void. Kale led the charge, his voice a rallying cry that echoed across the stars, igniting the spirits of those who fought beside him. The ancient force surged within him, a tempest of raw energy and endless possibility, reshaping reality itself with every pulse. Yet power came with a price, and Kale felt the relentless pull of sacrifice as the forces of tyranny sought to crush hope beneath their heel. The galaxy watched as the tides of war ebbed and flowed, the outcome hanging on a knife's edge. In the crucible of conflict, Kale's humanity shone brightest, not as a warrior of destruction, but as a beacon of redemption and renewal. The battle was more than a war for survival, it was a reckoning that would define the very soul of the cosmos. When the dust settled and the echoes of war faded into the silence of stars reborn, Kale stood victorious yet forever changed. The galaxy had been remade, its chains shattered by the indomitable spirit of one human who dared to challenge fate itself. The rebellion's flame now burned brighter than ever, a symbol of hope and freedom across countless worlds. Kale's story was etched into the annals of history, a testament to the power of courage, sacrifice, and unyielding hope in the face of overwhelming darkness. Yet even in victory, the future remained a fragile promise, a delicate balance between light and shadow. Kale looked to the stars with a weary but hopeful heart, knowing that the journey was far from over. For in the vast expanse of the cosmos, new challenges would arise, and the story of humanity's place among the stars would continue to unfold. This was not an end, but a beginning, a spark that would ignite generations to come, a light piercing the eternal night, and proof that one human could indeed change an entire galaxy.